Hello, and welcome to the Fiber Circus. This is episode 20, and it's May 1st, 2019. I'm your host, Elizabeth, coming to you from southern Indiana, where I have my farm, the Spottedcircus, and this is a machine knitting, regular knitting, dyeing, spinning, and crafting all the things kind of a podcast. If you'd like to get a hold of me, all my contact information is just down below in the information box with the show notes. You can get a hold of me on Ravelry, Facebook, and Instagram as Spottedcircus, and everything else that you need to know this weekend is just down below in the show notes. If you would like to hit subscribe and like, I'd greatly appreciate it, because I love to see new viewers all the time. So if you're a returning viewer, thanks a lot for coming back, and if you're a new viewer, hopefully you enjoy the show. It's going to be a somewhat short show this week, because I've been traveling and doing events the last couple of weeks, so it's kind of cut into my crafting time a little bit. And I'm at a phase right now where I'm indecisive on a lot of my projects, whereas I've cast on a sweater or two and I'm not thrilled with the way that they're looking. And so I've kind of stopped, because why continue if you aren't 100% sure on it? Because I don't want to make a sweater I don't like. So, mainly been monogamous kind of the last 2 weeks. So, the first project that I've been working on is the same one I've been working on for quite a while. It's the Suriously Holey Shawl by Stephen West. And last week I was where that little bitty marker was, and now you can see I've gone up quite a bit. And I've done another row of decreases, and I have fixed, well, I think I have fixed my mistake that I had, which is right here. And you can see it looks kind of wonky right there. But when I'm looking at it, I think it's going to block out. I'm pretty sure that all the things that I have picked up and or done are correct, because when I'm looking at the way that the stitches are aligned acrossways, it looked right. If not, it's now too late to fix it, because I've gone past it and done another decrease up here. So I tried to find somebody at the fiber event that I vended at who could fix brioche, and I was definitely willing to give them some free yarn, but I didn't manage to find anyone. And on this side, it isn't, well, it's still kind of noticeable. It's wider right over in here, but you can see it technically looks correct. So I'm hoping that it's going to block out, or that if somebody notices, they're polite and doesn't say anything, because I'm finally within roughly 20 rows of the end, I think. However, each row is, 500 plus stitches going across, and it's very taxing, because you see, you start over here and it goes all the way across, and it's pretty bunched up on this needle right now. So it's going to be a pretty good size shawl, because down there's the base. So 20 more rows of brioche and then an I-cord bind off, and that's going to take a fair bit too. So the yarn that I'm using on this side is my brushed Suri, and it's an Alpaca blend, and it's in the Neon Sprinkles colorway. And I'm on third skein of that so far. And then on the other side, this black with the neon sprinkles is on my Pacaboo base, which is an alpaca, bamboo, merino, and nylon. It's a sock blend. I also currently have it on a DK Polworth and, let me think, I want to say a superwash merino nylon possibly as well. Oh, excuse me. And the colorway is called Disco Lights. And it's a reverse speckle, so it's black with the neon speckles throughout it there. And I am knitting this on size 5 needles. These are my interchangeable Addi clicks. They're Addi Turbo lace clicks. And so far it's going really well, except for that one error, which, it was a matter of try to fix it by dropping down, or I would have to rip back, I think it was like 10 rows down at 500 stitches per row. And I'll be honest, I didn't want to rip back that many stitches. So I'm just going to be satisfied with it. For my first brioche project, this is not exactly a small brioche project, so I'm continuing to cruise along, and it's still living in my bag from Star Knits. It's my squid bag, and it barely fits in there now because brioche is super squishy, and so I'm having a hard time actually squeezing it into the bag. It's more than full. So thank God for a good drawstring, because it helps to keep it closed and helps to keep the kitten out of it. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks this will get done, and then I will be completed with that project and I can move on to something else interesting. The only other thing I really worked on this week was my Meraki tank, and that is by Sara Gresbach, and this is the Meraki. It has, come on, so it has a lace back there, but it also has a keyhole, so you can flip it in either direction. And I'm knitting this out of Beroco Vintage, which is a thing that I don't have the tag for. It's silk, linen, I want to say there's some wool, maybe viscose in it. It's supposed to be all recycled fibers, but it's called Remix Light. And you can see there's just kind of little bitty nips and nubs of stuff throughout it. Supposed to be, I think, a sport or a DK. However, it doesn't really knit up like that. So I'm working on the ribbing right now, and I'm working the ribbing on size 5 needles. You can see there's my little bitty piece of ribbing that's going. And it's okay so far. I mean, it feels really nice. And the pattern calls for Nettle Grove, which is a similar yardage type of a yarn. And they're saying it to work a size down from that. But when I did my gauge swatch, I wasn't getting gauge quite right. I mean, this is really light, to me at least, for a sport weight. It's definitely not as thick as what I had planned on. So, we're going to trudge ahead and see how it goes. I've got to get past this ribbing, and then it's nice stockinette, which isn't too bad at all. I'm making, let's see, what size am I making? I forgot to go through and highlight what size I'm making. I think I'm making the size 50. Because I figured out my bust size, my upper bust area is a 49. So I think a 50 is what it is that I was going for. I definitely wouldn't have made the 55. That would have been huge. So, hopefully, I get some kind of work on this. I've been distracted with the Suriously Holey trying to get it done. So, you can see, not a lot of progress. Maybe like 6 or 7 rows in. Oh, excuse me. For some reason, when I podcast these days, I get the yawns. I don't know if it's the fact that I've put on actual makeup, so I look fancy and that makes me tired, or what. But, this is living in a little project bed that my mom made for me at one point, with these cute little forest creatures. You know, nothing super fancy. Long term it won't be able to live in here because it'll be too big. But that's what I'm working on so far. Spinning wise, I did a little bit of spinning when I was at one of my shows recently. However, it wasn't enough to really write home about. Oh, lordy. Anyways, so I did a little bit of spinning, but it wasn't very much, so I didn't bother to bring it in really. And machine knitting wise, the only thing I really have to show for that is I did some samples for the demonstrations that I was doing at one of my alpaca shows, so nothing there. However, I did do some weaving. I decided that with the demos that I was set up to do at this alpaca show, I needed something that included weaving. And the easiest thing for me, in my mind at least, was some kind of tapestry style weaving. So I actually ordered these little bitty cardboard looms off Amazon. And originally I had ordered these really nice looms from Black Sheep Goods that they punch out and then you get all the parts for it. But as I started doing the weaving, I realized this would take a new person forever to do it. So I decided to go with much smaller bookmark / mug rug / mouse blanket sized projects. So I did this one up just as an example. So you can see here's my little strange tapestry weaving thing. I've got some fringe only on one side, and in reality I'll probably continue it across. That's all I got done. Then I have some Starbright nylon and some Firestar in here. Then I have some just plain weave. Then I did, I think it's called a sumac braid right there. Or maybe these are sumac knots. One of these is a fancy sumac term. And then I used some roving up in here. And then I've woven in a few locks, just as an accent piece. So, Not 100% sure when I'm going to continue on and actually finish this, but it was a good demo piece, and maybe I'll like weave in these in, maybe I'll just call it an art piece, you know, and leave these ends all wonky there. So, yeah, I mean, it's cute. I used the same disco lights that's in my shawl right here, in that section. So, yeah, I kind of like this part right here with the roving. It's nice and squishy. And then this right here is actually your, I think it's called a shed or a pickup stick, and you weave it through so that way you can then pass your fiber or yarn through it. So, cute little looms. I'm going to actually have a few of these in my shop, so that way people that want to give weaving a try can. They're pretty reasonably priced. They come with everything you need, including yarn and instructions for $35, which is a pretty good deal. So, this is my big bad weaving experiment this weekend. As you can see, it's very creative so far, but that's kind of the whole point of these small tapestry pieces is art. So, got that done today. Let's see, besides that, I've been doing some traveling, so I went to the fiber event at Greencastle that would have been 2 weekends ago, so right after I recorded. Thanks a lot to everyone who stopped by and bought stuff, or stopped by and just said hi in general. It was pretty cold in a big old metal pole barn with no heat, and it had been raining for quite a while the first couple of days prior, so there was a giant lake right in front of the building as well. So that was a bit of an adventure. My trailer that I haul everything in had started to form a leak in the roof, and that's when I discovered that you're supposed to reseal trailer roofs every couple of years, which I had no clue you were supposed to do that. So thankfully we made enough at the Fiber Festival to cover the trailer repairs, because I told them they had 24 hours to get it done because I needed the trailer back in order to pick up and load up all my stuff. So it was a good time. I got to see lots of friends that I see normally in the area, and it was kind of nice because it was within driving distance of my house, so there really wasn't any travel expenses per se. So that was good. I turned in my application for next year, so hopefully we'll get in and I will see everybody there again next year. After that, this past weekend, I was at the Mid-Atlantic People Alpaca Association. It was basically 2 alpaca shows combined into one, up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And so I went there and I did free demonstrations and mini classes all weekend and was available to talk to people about their fiber and stuff. So had a good time there. I actually went out for dinner one night with my friend Jamie, who'd come down from New York, and then my other friends from a company called Latin Collection, and they're also known as My Comfy Sock. And they're who I get all of my compression socks from, and I've started wearing compression socks when I do festivals or sorting events where I'm on my feet for long periods of time, and it actually helps out a ton with keeping the blood from basically pooling in your feet and making your feet swell up and really hurt at the end of the day. So went out to dinner with them, and we went to an authentic Peruvian restaurant, which was kind of interesting since we were at an alpaca show like that. And we tried a bunch of authentic Peruvian dishes, including a purple corn drink, which is made from corn, and it's purple, kind of like a Kool-Aid type mix. And it was interesting. It tastes kind of like a spiced cider or mulled wine. So that was kind of cool. You can actually find it on Amazon if you search for purple corn drink. It'll come up. And then I decided, you know what, I might as well try some authentic food while I'm there. So I got what was called the triple. And the triple had grilled beef hearts, grilled pork stomachs, and tripe. You know, they know how to prepare it there. It's not like I was going to get sick from eating any of it. And it was actually pretty good. I actually really liked the grilled pork stomach for some reason. It was really soft and tender. And the regular pork was really good. Or the beef heart was pretty good. The tripe was kind of chewy. You know, it's kind of like squid that's been there for a little bit too long, in my opinion. So, you know, I didn't eat as much of that, but it was interesting to get to try it at least. We also had some ceviche, some calamari, and then they had some, there's evidently a Chinese influence. A Chinese influence in Peru. So they had these stir-fry dishes. So we had some Peruvian Chinese fried rice, And then we had another dish that was a steak dish, but they also put hot dogs, and what was the other weird thing in it? I remember hot dogs was one of the ingredients because I couldn't quite decide why hot dogs fit in with a steak stir fry. But it was just kind of strange, but you know, each culture has their own food. So if you happen to be out in Harrisburg, I would go to, shoot, let me think what it's called now. Oh, Quechua. Quechua is authentic Peruvian barbecue or grill or dining. One of those. It's by a mall. I can tell you that, in Harrisburg. But it was really good. Had a great time there and got to see lots of friends that I haven't seen in a while and look at a lot of really nice alpacas. So that was my big travel that was happening then. So on to the next round of travel. Oh my god. I gotta come up with a new system here because I don't know why my yawns take over. Maybe it's my lights. It's kind of dim in this room except for the lights that are shining on me. And maybe it somehow magically puts me into a slumber place. I don't know. It's kind of strange. I'll try not to do it from now on, hopefully. So, upcoming events. Not this coming Saturday, but the Saturday after the 11th. I leave to work a shearing out in Colorado for a week and a couple of days. It's a really nice operation out there. I'll try to do some photos of it. They have between 400 and 500 alpacas out there, and I work on sorting the fleeces it comes off by a 3-micron range and by length and by color. So it gives them a little bit different feedback on their animals and how they're doing. And then at the end of shearing, their fleece is already sorted and ready to go out to processing or out to commercial buyers, which is kind of nice. After that, I have, I think, 2 weeks off, but then I'm going to turn right back around and go back to Colorado again, because, you know, Colorado and me, this is be trip number 3 and 4 this year. So June 7th through the 9th, I'll be at the Estes Park Wool Market in Estes Park, Colorado. I'll be teaching a class on corespinning there that Friday morning. I'll have a full booth with all sorts of awesome stuff there, so definitely you'll want to stop out, say hi. It's a beautiful area. You can go to the Stanley Hotel there and actually do the Stanley Ghost Tours. Because that's where The Shining was filmed at, evidently. I don't do spooky things. However, my husband's decided he's going to go with me on this trip and see how hardcore I am with driving straight through to Colorado. So maybe this will give him a new appreciation of, I'm not just out having fun, I'm doing hard work. So that's June 7th and 9th. The June 22nd and 23rd, I'm doing the Fiber Fun class down at Rolling Oaks Alpaca Ranch in Makanda, Illinois. And this is going to be a class that takes you from selecting fleeces for processing, clear through to dyeing, washing, spinning, well, not really spinning probably, but drum carding and playing with different types of fiber for blending and doing all sorts of different fun dyeing techniques. The next weekend, the 29th and 30th, I'm doing a machine knitter's beginning class at River Hill Ranch in Richmond, Kentucky. It's a pretty small class because I can only manage so many people with machines, I've discovered. Because when things go right, they go really right. But all it takes is one person having a few issues and the class kind of derails from there. So it's definitely a smaller class, but if you're interested in it and you're in the area, definitely get a hold of me or get a hold of Alvina down at River Hill Ranch and we can see about getting you signed up. Then going into July, the 17th through 21st, I'm at the Super Summer Knit Together in Nashville, Tennessee. And that's a retreat hosted by the Knit Girls, Laura and Leslie. I'll be vending there that Saturday, and vending is open to the public from 1 to 4. Oh, excuse me. At the Scarrett Bennett Center. It's down near Vanderbilt University. A lot of really good vendors will be there. It's a pretty small marketplace, but it's a pretty nice marketplace in my opinion. That Sunday, the 21st, I'm actually teaching at the Natural Fiber Extravaganza, which is also going on in Nashville, Tennessee. There'll be classes there all weekend from, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There'll be classes, there are vendors, there will be fiber displays, there's a big fleece show, a spin-off competition, fiber arts and skein competition. So that Sunday I'm teaching overdyeing the alpaca rainbow, where we're going to take the majority of the natural colors of alpaca and dye them all with the exact same concentration of dye across 5 or 6 different colors to really show what the difference is when you overdye a dark brown animal with a blue versus a light fawn animal with a blue. So that'll be a really good class. And I'm also doing Corespinning there, which is going to help you to utilize tender fleeces, interesting art bats, or make your own rug yarn in case you've ever wanted to do that. So after that, let's see, move into August. And August 17th and 18th, I have tentatively scheduled a machine knitting class up in Medina, Ohio. It's going to be about the same as every other machine knitting class. I'm just starting to finalize those details though this week, so it's tentative still. And then the weekend after that, the 23rd through the 25th, is Yakapalooza up in Tullett. It's either Tullett or Tully, New York. I know it's the southeasternish corner. So I'll be going out to judge yaks out there, and there will be a yak show, and I'm going to guess a yak seminar or two, probably some yak meat. So if you want to learn it all about yaks, it's going to be a great time. And then October 25th through 27th is SAF, which is the Southeastern Animal Fiber Fair out in Asheville, North Carolina. So that's my upcoming travel so far. I think I'm probably going to be dropping in a few events between the Ohio class in New York, out in the New Jersey and New York area most likely, because I have a few farms that want private sorts done, so I'll probably be dropping a few more things in there. So it's starting to pick up for sure. I'm going to need to continue to dye yarn and fiber and whatnot, but we've got a week and a half here where I'm not really going to be here, so it's going to really cut into my production time. So I've got to think about what I have and what's going to be going up. As far as the shop goes, it's currently down because, number one, if I put it up, I'm slightly paranoid all the time that I'm going to sell everything that's in there and then have nothing for the festival. And I'm also attempting to transition it over to a Square store and come off of Etsy, because I don't have a good way currently of knowing what inventory I sell after a festival, because each colorway wasn't an individual item. And so in order to put it back up on Etsy, I've got to go through and do counts and then make sure that if I sell something on Etsy, or if I sell something at a festival, it comes off of Etsy. So if I put it up into a Square store, I can technically sync what it is I have for sale, but it's going to take a bit of work because I've got to redo all the listings basically for everything that I've got. So I'm working on it. If there's something in specific that you do need, definitely let me know. I can pull it off the trailer and get it out to you, no problem, especially if it's a drum carder. Excuse me. Or a wheel. I definitely want to pull those off of Etsy because I lose 5% from Etsy every time I sell one, and that actually takes a pretty good chunk of any kind of profit that I make on a wheel. So the new site will be up on my personal website, which is Spottedcircus.com. It's just going to take a while because unfortunately our internet out here at our house is limited to cell phones, and that's it. So it takes quite a while to get things updated. So moving on from that, farm update, no babies yet. However, I did move Miss Measles up to another farm just this week because she's due the second that I leave for Colorado. And with the kind of luck I have, she'll have her baby the second that I'm gone, and my husband leaves in the dark and gets home in the dark. So it's just not a great situation. So luckily I have some pretty good friends farther up north that do work from home and can keep a slightly closer eye on her for me. So greatly appreciate that. Otherwise, that's the big farm news. I'm going to attach a review after this because I got in a new tool recently, and it's called the Gleaner. And if you've ever knit a garment and it starts to get pills on it, you know, it doesn't look quite as nice and fresh as the day that you actually knit it. So I had heard all about the Gleaner from the Knit More girls for quite a few years, and I finally had a coupon for a place, and I broke down and got one, and I absolutely love it. It's kind of like getting a brand new vacuum cleaner. You don't know how much dirt and pills you have until you start with a brand new one. So I'll be putting that in here after I say goodbye, and hopefully you enjoy the review. So we'll talk to you guys again in 2 weeks. Bye! Okay, so I wanted to do a review today on how it is that I remove pills from a sweater. Over time, your sweater is going to pill. Hopefully it doesn't do it very fast, but unfortunately sometimes yarn decisions cause pilling to happen quicker. So this is my Even Flow by Holey Locatelli, and it's knit out of pashmina, which is a Madelinetosh yarn, and it's a merino, silk, and cashmere yarn. The cashmere in there is a very short staple, and it's what's causing the issue, I think. So I've only worn this sweater, I would say 4, maybe 5 times max. But what I've found is that underneath the arms, it's rubbing against this textured stitch, and it's causing a lot of pilling. So you can see all these little guys here. There's all sorts of pilling. And over time, this is going to cause an issue with the durability of the sweater, which kind of sucks. But lesson learned. Probably wasn't exactly the best yarn for this purpose. So what I use is, it's called the Gleaner on the Go. And the Knitmore girls have always talked about the Gleaners. And I looked at some pictures of them online and was like, oh, that's nothing that fancy by any means. But I happened to have a coupon at one point, so I thought, okay, I'm going to get a Gleaner. So the Gleaner on the Go, it comes in a bunch of different patterns. This one is Pretty Green Leaves. It has one of those velvety brush things. But the big thing is when you open it up, there's 3 different attachments that you can actually use. So depending upon your level of pills, you can use, there's a white attachment, and then there's 2 different black attachments. And it's a matter of how coarse they are. So this is the most coarse. And then it goes down to this, and then this white, which is almost, it feels like a ceramic. So what I'm going to select is, I would have to say that my level of pilling is probably at a number 2. So you snap it out, and you just switch these little guys out. And that snaps down into place and it closes. So now you're ready to do some depilling. So what you do is you just kind of comb along. You try to hold it somewhat steady-ish, but you can already see. I mean, look at all these pills that have already come off. So we'll start to make a pill pile here. So, and just kind of scrape along. And it picks the little guys right up. I didn't know that I really needed one of these things until I started looking at another sweater of mine and decided, oh, I need to depill it. And once I did, it's kind of like when you get a new vacuum cleaner, you all of a sudden see dirt in every area of your house, and you decide that you need to take care of that. So we're going to go underneath the arms here. And see, it's pulling a lot of that up. And probably going over this cabley section, you wouldn't ever want to use the harsh tool, because I think that it would probably be too harsh. And it would probably actually tear into those sections. Alright, so let's look at this main section. And I think you always kind of want to go with the stitches versus away from the stitches. But this Gleaner, it'll work on about anything. You could probably use it on shawls. I'd probably use the white head on it because it's the gentler of all of the Gleaner heads, I guess. That's what you'd call it. So let's see. Let's come across here. And you can see this is really simple to do. You just find your pilly spots. No, that's not a pilly spot. That's a woven in end that's poking out. And you just kind of brush along it. So far, just from doing that little section, here's how much fluff I've gotten off. And that is quite a bit of fluff, in my opinion. Especially for the amount that I've actually worn this sweater. I feel like that's a lot. It definitely does improve your stitch definition, though, when you remove all those little nasty pills. So, let's see what the other side looks like. So the other arm, it looks almost to me as if it's pilling more here. Like if you look at it, it's hard to catch on camera, but you can see that there's surface pills there. So let's see if we go over that section, what's going to happen. And this is just, it's an area that gets a lot of wear. And yep, there was quite a bit there that needed to come off. And let's go on the other side of it. Certain yarns are more prone to pilling. Your very, very fine fleeced yarns that aren't spun very tight, like a singles, will pill horribly usually. High silk, high cashmere content yarns will pill. Woolen versus worsted. Woolen yarns will pill more likely than a worsted yarn will. And it's due to the construction of the yarn. So it's something to keep in mind when you decide to knit a sweater. What is that yarn like, and what is that yarn going to do, and how is it going to hold up in durability? So the very first sweater that I knit, which took me like 4 years to finish, was knit out of a singles yarn, and I think it was a worsted weight singles yarn, and it was merino, superfine merino 50% and 50% silk, and it was a singles. That was the stupidest yarn decision you could probably make for a sweater with any type of texture, because it's going to rub against your body, and you're going to end up with a sweater that pills like mad and just always looks kind of ratty. Once I finished that sweater, I was a slightly smarter knitter at that point and put 2 and 2 together, and that sweater didn't stay with me very long because it wasn't going to wear. Which, you know, if you don't mind that, fine. But I don't want my sweater to look ratty all the time. I want it to look, I guess, like it's freshly knit, you know, and freshly cleaned. So, just gleaning a little bit more. It becomes slightly addictive to try to find all the pills, you know, and to be able to remove them. It's kind of satisfying. And we'll do a little bit on the back just to make sure, you know, I'm getting a few pills off there. And most likely what's being pulled out in these pills is probably the cashmere, unfortunately. Ooh, I can see some clear over there. So yeah, that's the majority of depilling. You can also buy sweater shavers, and they have little razor blades in like a mesh that rotate and pull out different items or different pills, but the pills have to be able to fit into that area in the first part. You know, so if they're slightly oddly shaped pills, they aren't going to fit in there, which is going to cause an issue. Just kind of curious as to if this was going to pull up any more or not. We'll see here. The other issue with the sweater shaver is if you end up getting like a yarn tail in your sweater shaver, it's going to cut that yarn. So, it's good for some purposes. I really enjoy this Gleaner. It's quite satisfying. And so see, that's really, it's the fine blade. It's not really pulling up much more. So yeah. So I've gone through and depilled this sweater for the most part. And here's all the fluff that I pulled off. And that's actually, to me, that's quite a bit. You know, because this fluff is going to start to, it's just going to continue to get worse as far as felting and pilling. And then it's also going to just make your stitch definition not as nice, because it's going to halo out around it. So like, right here's a section that I can tell I didn't do. And you can see how the stitches are kind of missing in definition because of these pills that are on it. Well, maybe I did depill it and I just didn't pick it back up. But hey, once I remove those little bitty pills, it looks 100% better. So, I got roughly good size marble at least. That's pretty solid. It's nice and soft. I guess you could technically felt with this now. You know, add a little bit of soap and water and you could have a felted bead to put on something, or you could just throw it away because it's essentially, it's lint. So that's my review of the Gleaner on the Go. Definitely highly recommend this little guy. I got mine online from Steve & Bees out of Minnesota. It works really, really well on a variety of different types of sweaters, or a variety of different types of yarns, you know, and depending upon how structurally strong your yarn is, you would switch out and use the different heads on it. So this really coarse head, I mean, you can see this actually, if you touch it, it feels almost like a lava rock. So it's a really coarse head, and if I was to use that on these little cables, I really think it would rip into them. So that's really only for your worst case scenario stuff. I mean, if you look at that surface, that's pretty bad looking stuff. And I don't think you would push very hard as well. So this is the Gleaner on the go. Definitely highly recommended. It's an amazing little tool. Comes in a cute little travel pouch. It's got the little lint brushy thing, which I guess, I've never used one of these little lint brushy things before, but I guess you could like brush your stuff with it. I mean, it gets a little bit of stuff up. I haven't ever really decided what that's for. I guess it's supposed to make, like, you could probably pick up pet hair, actually. So you could probably get pet hair up off of stuff. Definitely thumbs up from me. Highly recommend it. The Gleaner on the go is convenient because it has all the heads, and it has this nice little travel pouch. So, highly recommended. Thanks a lot.